Hey everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Pawan Adipuram, the founder of Chipmunks. Pawan is a graduate of Osmania University and has worked for Tata Consultancy Services before starting his own venture in 2015. Hi Pawan, welcome to ELI.
Hi, Priya. Hi. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Pawan, we will start with your introduction. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Pawan. I'm run this company called Chickmonks, and we started this journey way back in 2015. Before that, briefly, let me explain you what is my experience. I'm not a fresh entrepreneur, as in an entrepreneur who started fresh from the college kind of thing. But I spent enough time with the corporates like TCS and other companies like NTT and all, and before moving into this space. And my journey in the corporate world was very smooth, I should say. And but of course, I was dissatisfied with the progress which we were making in the career, and that's the trigger point, I should say. I mean, I think we felt a place where we were hitting the glass roof, and we thought, I think it's time to do something. I was 35 when I quit, so 36 when I quit. So if you can think of it, right, it's a long journey in our career, and then if not that time, I felt maybe will not be any time is not good further. So that's the reason why we quit. And then when we started the journey, I had three co-founders to start with, and they are there with me now. In fact. My experience from corporate world to the startup world was more from a coming from a place where I was happily dissatisfied with what I was doing, and wanted to do something bigger and take some be an inspiration to the next generation, at least in the house to speak, right? I mean, my kids should look up to me and think that he should become an entrepreneur too. That was my inspiration.
Okay. Now tell us about your venture. What are you trying to build, or what have you built out of Chipmunks?
Sure. See, Priya, see, when I quit the job, I was actually heading the delivery management for TCS. So, and all my experience in technology was to work with companies like JPMC, Bank of America, and RBI, Reserve Bank of India. In fact, the NEFT systems, which was designed and are still used by a lot of us for money transfers, actually was built by us. I mean, I was the project manager for building that project, and back in 2008 when transactions were happening 2 days with delay and all, I went to the Reserve Bank of India executionist and said that, hey, we should actually move to a real time settlement kind of model, and they accepted it. So all my experiences was coming from a financial services space, and I also worked with payments and all of that. So when we took the call of starting something on our own, we wanted to be in a fintech space, basically trying to see how we can actually add value to the fintech space. And uh, we had a couple of options. One was a peer-to-peer lending platform, which was the go-to market, go-to thing in 2016. And then we had something to do with payments again, which was more like a Paytm kind of a scan, QR code scanner. There were umpteen number of payment service kind of processor, or I would say payment gateway partner kind of models. There were so many things and so many startups. So we wanted to definitely be unique, and wanted to do something which nobody was actually touching it upon. I don't have a story where my parents lost money in chit funds, so I wanted to do something in chit funds. No, definitely not. I don't want to talk about that kind of stories. So it was more like thinking about what else can be done in the chit fund space, because we really felt chit funds was completely left out in terms of technology adoption, and completely ignored by the government as well. So many governments still take chit funds as a ways and means to raise fingers on others, but rather they don't really look at it as an opportunity to really work with the government, or the make better, right? So we felt there is an opportunity in this space, and That's how we started the journey. From where we started, from where we are standing, definitely the journey has very different aspects to it. But that was a primary reason. Think of it because chit fund was something which nobody was. I mean, technology was far from adoption to adopting in chit fund space, and government was also kind of taking it back. They had almost kind of a stepmotherly treatment, so to speak, if I have to say, without hurting anybody's sentiments. But yeah, that's the kind of treatment which chit fund gets in every state.
Can you share some statistics or numbers around what kind of traction you have got as a venture?
Okay. So I think, see, today, I mean, though we started it as a marketplace, as a where we were actually trying to just, I mean, see, people say that, start with the low hanging fruits most of the times. But I think if I were to advise to somebody who's starting, I would say pick up the toughest nut to crack. Don't go for the lowest hanging fruits, because lowest hanging fruits are some things which anybody can probably do for you. Okay, so but yeah, definitely we didn't have mentors or advisors who guided us in that space at that time, that point of time when we started the journey. But definitely that gave us an advantage. I mean, we started the becoming a marketplace, bringing customers online to the digital chit fund government, to not the digital chit fund, the chit fund company saying that, hey, this is the customer, he is the chit fund company, we will do a matchmaking kind of model. So, but realized very soon realized that that model was not scaling up in the right way we wanted it to scale. So the service was a problem and all of that. So we pivoted from that model, and we dig deep down into. That's when we actually went and understood and tried to understand a much deeper problem. So what is the toughest nut to be cracked in this space, right? That's when we thought, government space, at least, government, what is government doing to, administer the chit fund business is what we started to understand. And we realized they are like decades old. They were using papers. I mean, when the entire banking and financial services are talking about giving loans in a minute, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, may loan dete हुए. That was the kind of model which every bank or credit card companies are moving towards. These chit fund administrators were still using the old generation papers and applications and all, and hardly it was acting as a record keeping machine rather than a regulator. See, the chit fund state governments were supposed to actually be the regulators, but it was literally playing the role of a bookkeeping machine. So we went ahead, we tried to understand what else can be done just beyond digital system, and we built a blockchain enabled solution. So we felt blockchain can really solve the problems. I mean, to address these kind of situations, especially in the chit fund space. So if you look at it from that angle, right, blockchain kind of a self-regulatory organization. SROs, typically when we call it as financial services, may we call SROs, self-regulatory organizations. if if implemented properly in the right spirit, a blockchain in the chit fund space can become an SRO for itself and regulate the entire, I mean, operations of the chit fund from the and can bring a lot of transparency and trust to the chit fund companies. So that's when we went ahead and we pitched this idea to the Telangana state government. Telangana state government has implemented the pilot for the thing. And that pilot actually got a lot of appreciations. In fact, they scaled the entire pilot across the state, so to speak. So Telangana at one point, even at this point actually, is completely operated on Teachits only, which is like a platform completely for owned by. Governed by, administered and technology support maintained by us, but of course owned by the government of Telangana. So, close to about 1,600 plus companies in the state actually operate on the platform, do transactions between, I mean, the subscribers are close to about 1.3 million subscribers. The money which gets rotated in this business is close to 20,000 crores. Okay, which means to say only Telangana state actually does a business of 20,000 crores per annum. That is the kind of money which gets rotated in this state in the chit fund space. So that's kind of what we have built so far. I mean, for the past 2 years into this space. And in terms of the B2B space, where we also have a product which is very specifically targeting the chip fund companies as well, where we say, tell them that, you forget about the technology piece, you focus on the business development and the operations. We help you with the entire technology piece. So we become the digital partner of the chip fund companies, basically helping them to, become 100% digitally ready for their next generation customers. So that is something which we started about 5, 6 months back, and frankly speaking, the B2B space. And there we have about close to 25 plus chip fund companies already operating their businesses on the platform. Those are some numbers for you, basically.
Okay. Uh, Now, as you rightly mentioned, chit funds are not the most talked about subjects in the fintech industry. Can you tell us why is that so?
See, that is the reason we choose the space as well. If you ask us, right? So, see, chit funds. If you're actually from South Indian part of it, not just South Indian, I think even in North India as well. To a large extent, this is actually an unorganized way of doing business, right? So there are a lot of people who participate in the chit fund industry. They take actually the chit fund business because for them the biggest thing is they get a lot of confidence in running the getting the money from the customers. Most of the below I mean part when below poverty below line kind of customers, right? I mean they PBL customers. So these customers actually believe chit funds more than any bank or any insurance company, because the reason is for them accessibility of money is more important. It's not about making a lot of returns and all, but it's about that. So, but again, like I said, because Reserve Bank of India didn't know how to, I would say it is a very complex, act to implement. The Chit Fund Act, which is actually governed by the central government, or rather prescribed by the central government, is a very complex act. Okay, which means to say that implementation of that without using technology is completely is out of this thing. So the size of the this thing, size of the business or the interest is also not very high for Reserve Bank of India. So they kind of gave it to the state governments to operate. And state governments, not knowing, many state governments just give it to some state governments have given it to agriculture department to manage it from business. Some state governments have given it to road tax department to handle tax department to handle chit fund business. What will a tax department do to manage administer a chit fund business? Can you imagine that? So it's obviously it's two sides, right? One, the government was not very keen in terms of pushing this financial inclusive instrument, and then the second side of it is naturally coming from the chit fund space also. Most of these companies are small size companies. You will find at least 30 to 40,000 companies across the country. You every month there will be at least 30, 40 companies registering themselves as registering chit fund companies, which means to say the company sizes, I mean, the entry barrier to this space is also very, very low. Because it is very low, and because the government's treatment was also not very high, you will find many people, there is no coherence, I would say. They are not together, because see, why do banks have a banking regulator? I mean, they come together because of the sheer size of the business, right? And there are only few players who are actually coming there into the banking. You will hardly find 100 plus banks across the country to operate, whereas chit funds are 30,000, 40,000 companies. How will you actually bring them onto one platform and make them speak, or that is the next set of problems, I would say, because of which these companies didn't get that, they didn't get the problem as such. And the other side of it is the government also was taking it slow on it. So that's the reason why I see they don't, we are not talking too much about chit fund companies.
Pawan, as an entrepreneur, you have picked a very India-specific problem to solve. I would like to understand how this journey is different from a typical startup journey, which adopts the idea from West and gives an Indian touch to it.
Very different, very, very different, very, very difficult. See, you don't find investors who really can get understand the problem we are trying to solve. And for many investors, it's not. It's investment is, of course, is about returns, right? I mean, so any investor who wants to come on board will also look for similar kind of, like you mentioned, right? Solving the problems of the West, building the solutions here, scaling it in India, and then taking it to outside the India to where they can make money. And we don't blame them, because investors are there for to make money, because they are not putting their own money. They are managing the money of the limited partners. So it is very difficult for. Trust me. I mean, we could hardly find. Any investor who could invest in our kind of company. And secondly, like you said, chit fund, most of the companies or most of the investors don't understand the concept of chit fund. So for them, the cycle is even more deep. They first have to understand the space. Then they have to understand what is the value proposition we are bringing. Then they have to understand the dynamics in the business, which is very difficult. They don't. It is easy for somebody to actually copy the investment happening in Western kind of a product, versus understanding it bottom up and thinking whether this company can scale the product or not. So it is very difficult. So that is one part of the story. The second part of the story is again, in terms of adaptability of the solutions, right? Whether it is government or the chip fund companies, it's not pretty straightforward, I should say, because most of the times the chip fund companies are they don't understand. Many companies don't understand technology because of the sheer size and age of the the administrator. So typically the age of the chip fund administrator will be more than 45, 50, because he has been there in that space. The new generation, which you'll hardly find a new generation company or new generation entrepreneur starting a chip fund business. This is very difficult to find, right? So uh, technology adoption is also adoption by the partners like chip fund companies and the regulators. The regulators, like I said, it is very difficult for them to even think that what they are doing, what they are doing is absolutely not right, and they should actually adopt technology to bring more but again, all of these are challenges every day. Building the sales team is also a bigger challenge. So I mean, we have many battles to fight every day. It's not easy problem to solve, and especially when you're talking an India centric problem. In India, you can imagine every kind of customer, right? I mean, a customer will come back and say, okay, I don't want these features in the product. I only want these features. Or, yeah, yeah, this business is not, this product is not suiting my requirements. Can you do this for me? You will have, all kind of customers needs. It's a very difficult problem, I should say, to solve. Let's see how we are doing. Maybe time will say.
Pawan, I'd like to understand, how did you find the right people to take your vision forward? Why didn't you start with your co-founders?
Yeah. See, co-founders, I mean, I should say, I'm very lucky to have co-founders, especially, Sidhu and Malla, Sridhar Reddy and Malla Reddy. So both of them, actually, all of us, actually, three of us are from the same college in Usmania University. And we worked together. Also, Sridhar and me were working in TCS for almost like 15 years before we started this journey. And Malla was my roommate when. So the commonality between three of us was very clear, that we wanted to do something beyond what we were doing in our corporate roles. And I must say we complement each other in terms of our skills as well. So I kind of do the business development side of it, and take care of the execution side while they build the technology product for us. So Malla heads the blockchain solution. Malla Reddy heads the blockchain solution part of it. He drives the entire blockchain piece for us, and Sridhar drives the entire the product deployment, and he takes care of everything related to product development and all of that. So we complement each other. We understand what we are doing in this space. We wanted to give our best in terms of what can be done in this space to make this better. So in that way, I say I have a very good team to support us. And three of us support each other a lot along the way, and we have been successfully doing that for almost like 5 years now. So the people say, co-founders have to fight for each other, express their view and all. but frankly, we don't. We understand clearly what role we are playing, so we take up a very objective approach in terms of discussing the problem statement what we are discussing. So if somebody talks about why we should adopt this technology, he is the best. So we go with him, and he will do. We will work in that direction. That's how my team is.
Another interesting aspect I would like to cover is about the family. How did you convince your family, or what was the reaction of your family when you decided to quit your long stint with a stable company at a very senior level role?
Yeah, absolutely. See, I mean, in fact, it's both easy sometimes and sometimes it's tough, right? So, if you think of it from our perspective, it's the good side of the story is it's been 15 years we spent with the corporate life, so probably we made some enough. We had enough backup to support us in terms of financially what we can do, and as a family, all three of us. I mean, we were in a stage where we were. Definitely able to manage the finances, family, and rest of the things as well, right? So in terms of finance, this definitely we took care of them. In terms of convincing them what's going to happen, because we left our jobs where we were making close to 3.5 lakhs per month, and we were ready to take a salary of 50,000, 60,000 rupees as well, right? So it means a lot of this thing. But I think the good part is all three of us definitely had very good understanding in terms of both family and the relationships and then friends as well. That what we are doing, we believe probably is the best thing which can happen to all of us in terms of career, in terms of business, and it's a good opportunity to do something big. And yes, I mean, if we are finding the right mindset of investors or right supporting entities, governments, and all, of course, we will definitely not be lost. We won't be failing. That is the confidence we have. So yeah, it was kind of okay from there.
Okay. The other question I would like to ask you, what is your vision with this venture? What is the ultimate product, or where you want to take it in a long run, in a 10 years timeline?
See, like I said, like I was just telling, right? Yeah, identifying the right partners to implement this scaling the solution is the most important thing for any business, right? I mean, in our case as well, we believe that we have chosen a right platform, a right product in terms of scaling the solution and helping the uh, government entities and the chip fund companies. Of course, the direct people would be the subscribers, right? I mean, if you are somebody is doing a chip fund, they are only looking for two things: one, safety and security for their money they are putting into the company, and two, right service, whether they are actually whether they are getting the money on time or not is the most important thing. So we are solving those two problems, and we are also helping the chip fund companies to become digital and scale their operations, and we are also helping the governments to regulate this business in a very organized way than what they were doing currently, right? So the long-term vision for us, obviously, I mean, we put it on our website as well that we want to make investments in chit funds accessible, credible, and rewarding. So it's like three things, right? Accessibility to the chit fund. Any subscriber who wants to save money into a financial instrument, chit fund should appear as a good instrument for them where they have the confidence to put the money in. That is the credibility part of it. Accessibility should be like today opening a bank account is just a video call away. I mean, video KYC kar diya, so you're done with opening a bank account. That kind of experience to the customer is also important. So bringing that credibility and rewarding, right? I mean, once you join a chit fund, you should also be able to get a lot of other financial services once you scale up. So our vision is to make India a place where anybody who's thinking of chit fund, they should probably think of coming onto our Chitmonks platform and use our platforms like Chitfunds 2.0 platform or Insure. Chit Insure is something again which we say we are providing insurance to the subscribers to help them manage the risk. or payments related thing. We have a chip pay kind of a solution where all the payments are completely digitized for them and reconciled for them. So we want to be the go-to person for anything related to chip fund. That is our long-term vision. Yeah.
Pawan, what are the challenges you have faced so far while building and growing this venture?
So, like I was mentioning again, right? See, the toughest challenge is to find the right mindset of customers who are looking forward. See, any system which you build, there are early adopters, and then there are interest. They kind of move from early adopter stage to using the solution and then adopting, scaling at the scale. The mass adoption is where you will find the real scale and sustainability for your company, right? So the biggest challenge we are facing, or we have faced earlier also, is the chip fund companies who want to adopt the solution 100% digitally, right? That is the biggest thing. And second thing, of course, is the governments, right? So you will hardly when we are talking to any chip fund administrators or any different state administrators, they like the solution, they like the product, but again, they have no clue how to acquire the solution, or they feel, maybe I can get away without even doing this kind of mindset, right? So it's a very tough place. Like again, because of the space itself, like I was saying, needs a lot of I would say approach from everybody, right? I mean, they should right approach from the government, right approach from the chip company subscribers, and all of that. So it's not a single one single-sided game kind of thing where you bring what if, imagine if UPI was not there, what would PhonePe do? What would Google Pay do? What would Paytm do in terms of other solutions? I mean, it's not valid, right? That's a bigger discussion to think of. So once any state government adopts the solution to the right way and think of scaling it in that direction, I'm sure, I think we'll have a better place for everybody to play.
Pawan, can you tell us about one tough decision or choice you had to make where both sides looked equally good or bad?
Uh, that's a very tough question because for the record, again, see, taking a call, like for example, we have been working with the state government department for quite some time already, and it is a very challenging job in terms of whether to go or no go kind of thing, because money is not paid on time. Rather, the contractual obligations are not given any this thing when we are working with the governments. Even the chip fund companies, right, for that matter, some of them, they just join, they just use the platform and all. But when it comes to payment, difficulty, they have their own versions of delaying it, postponing it. So working with a lot of these companies, I mean, if you think of it, right, Priya, I think many startups who are in SaaS platform and all, everybody agrees to what I'm saying. Indian customers are the toughest one to crack. We, payments don't come on time, but they want the best of the quality service and all of that. But taking a call, right? Let's say if the company is using our services for quite some time, especially some shipment companies, let's say, we kind of go back to them, explain them why they have to pay us. Otherwise, but the call is to tell them, boss, this is not working. We have to cut your see. In the place where I'm sitting today, right? I mean, it's called T Hub. Okay, it's government built infrastructure for startups to support, right? Even in T-Hub, if you don't pay money by 10th of every month, 5th is the last day, 10th of every month, 10th, 5 days is the grace period. 10th day, there is a security guard standing next to me asking me to leave, right? And yeah, government followed, schools as well, right? I mean, private schools which are supposed to be completely, not for profit making organizations. Schools are supposed to be a not for profit organizations, right? So they cut down our kids, access if I don't pay the money on 10th. But that is something which a Indian business owner doesn't look at it that way. But yes, I mean, it's tough to make those kind of calls. We have made some calls like that, and I believe that it is important for the entrepreneur to stand on that, because money not getting paid is something will make you bleed continuously, which is not good for the company in the long run, right? So that's the biggest. We have done that. I mean, I've taken those calls where it was supposed to give some more time, but yes, but it's always give and take, right? So yeah, I mean, if they don't appreciate the value, we have to let them go.
What is the meaning of entrepreneurship to you, or rather, how would you define entrepreneurship?
See, for me, entrepreneurship is not business. Okay, for me, definitely, it's not business. Business is very different than entrepreneurship. So for me, entrepreneurship is more like a value proposition. See, in whatever we are doing, there should be some value in terms of either some kind of efficiency, some kind of cost reduction, or some kind of a real value proposition for the other, I mean, consumers, right? Whether if there is no value proposition, I don't see that as an enterprise or enterprising entrepreneur, right? Basically, if it's just a good selling machine, right? A kirana shop is not in. I would, from my perspective, again, I might be wrong in my perspective. I appreciate. I totally agree to that as well. But selling the goods from one shop to other, getting it from a wholesaler and selling it to a retailer is not an entrepreneurship for me. I mean, it is business for me. Okay, for me, it is more like a business opportunity than an entrepreneur. So for me, the definition of entrepreneur is very clear. If you have a value proposition, if you are solving some of the good problem, one of the good problem, and in the process, of course, you have to have a sustainable business model. It's not just about becoming. You should not get carried away with solving one of the toughest problem in this in the history of mankind, and but still don't sustain that business. There is no point in me building that kind of a model, right? I mean, you should also, as an entrepreneur, you should look at solving some of the toughest problems and bringing the value proposition to the ecosystem, and finally be sustainable. If you are not sustainable, then definitely your enterprise is not going to be valued for, right? So that those are my three definitions for entrepreneurs. You have to think of sustainability, you have to think of value propositions, and you have to solve the toughest problem.
Coming to my last question, this is the final one. What are the
Sure.
learnings you have had as an entrepreneur, which our listeners can take away and apply it to their life or their entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. See, I think it's been 5 years we started this journey. I mean, definitely we have learned a lot. We have learned a lot. Uh, the question, say, if you come back and ask me, Pawan, would you do something differently if given an opportunity again? I would say no, because definitely everything we did, definitely we learned something from it, and I'm sure we are continuing to learn every day. We have 10 battles, 100 battles to fight every day, and we only pick and choose three or four battles to fight, right? The learnings are continuous. There is no way you can say, okay, if I took this path in a different direction, I would have probably learned different things, but definitely I wouldn't say, yeah, everything would have been fine and all of that, right? So for me, as an entrepreneur, if you want me to, give advice on those things, like I said, I did talk about, taking one piece of advice. Don't think of solving the lowest, hanging fruit first. Okay, lowest hanging fruit is a very easy thing to catch. Even anybody can do it for that, right? So again, going by the definition of an entrepreneur, choose the toughest nut to crack. Okay, then choose a sustainability to that first. Think of a way to make it sustainable. If you are don't rely on the money from the investors or from your own pockets. I mean, you never spend. Don't get into the place where you start burning your own money and investors' money for nothing, right? I mean, because if there is no sustainability in the solution what you're building or bringing to the forum, it doesn't make any sense, right? So two things. I mean, if I, only two things. One, choose the toughest nut to crack. Find out a sustainable model to make money. If you are not able to find it, then find another problem to solve. That is what I would say. and don't get to the false imaginations of valuations. That's the most important thing I would call out for. Many budding entrepreneurs think that valuation is everything. Valuation is not everything. It's probably everything for the investors, but not for the entrepreneurs. You talk to any entrepreneur, you will find out that valuation is one part of the story, but no money comes to the hand of an entrepreneur until he sells his enterprise, right? So it's valuation. Don't chase valuation. Chase the business models where you can make money, make it more sustainable. Then obviously other people will follow to you. That's what I would say.
On this note, we are done with the interview. It was a great pleasure to host you here at ELI. Thanks for your time, Pavan, and our best wishes for Chipmunks.
Thank you, Priya. Thanks, ELI and all your viewers. I wish you all the very best in your enterprising journey. I'm always available at pawan@chipmunks.com. You can reach out to me. Thank you.